Hey team, this is George. Appreciate all the effort and energy you've been putting into our class, especially this our behavior modification project. I've been finding this to be kind of fascinating because of the high level of work that you have been putting into that project. So that matters. And this week, I'm not going to spend time right now going over the behavior modification project because everybody's doing so well on it. I think everybody has a handle on it. But I am going to say that I'm going to have a live session this week. I'm going to try to move the time to later in the evening rather than the lunch and learn. But I'll be posting that tomorrow for Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly my availability at the evening hours, but I will do my best to come up with something so we can open it up to more people after work. And this week's discussion is kind of cool. It's overcoming fears. Now, overcoming fears is simple, but don't mistake simple for easy. And I think that's why I'm kind of looking forward to our discussion this week because overcome a fear, you simply have to take an initial step. And what I mean by that is as an action towards overcoming that. So where people get stuck is that time between their thought about doing something and when they do it. That's when fear, hesitation, all that stuff can sneak in. So, from my perspective, shrinking that time between thought and action to almost nothing is a big part of overcoming fears because you just have to make one step in that direction. It doesn't have to be a big one, it can be a micro step, but just make a step and then add another micro step and another and another. And eventually you win. And I would say actually that by taking that initial step, you've won. Now you just have to take the rest of the steps. So you've already won. It's kind of like accepting Christ. Once you've accepted Christ, you know you've won. You don't have to worry about that, about what's going to happen after life, but you still have to live according to Christ and all the teachings that we have from the Bible. So it's kind of like overcoming with fears. We know that we've won and that we've overcome the fear. We just have to keep making those steps until it manifests within ourselves. So shrinking that time between thought and action is a big deal for me because I notice myself that sometimes I'll have a great idea or think of something to do and then kind of not do it. And that's because I don't put in action directly after the thought. So shrink that time between thought and action. And doesn't matter if it's just a little minor micro step, but make it a step in that direction. And guess what? You will overcome that fear each and every time. So it's going to be a fun conversation this week because I know everybody has uh, some good thoughts. Our text and everything else discusses this in depth. So just remember, overcoming the fear, we know how to do it. It's simple, but it's not easy. Just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. It can be very, very difficult. It's not as simple as just doing it, but that is how we get there. So figuring out how we get people to take that micro step and shrink that time between thought and action is a big deal. So look forward to our discussions this week, and let's keep moving forward in just the absolute momentum that you've had throughout our entire class. So have a great week, and I'll see you online.